Well, you don't see these every day. Right-hand drive Pajero imported from Japan or China or someplace overseas. It's here because the shifter won't move, and I could force it into neutral and get it into reverse. So I thought the shift cable would be seized, so I disconnected the shift cable at the transmission and the cable moves flawlessly. Let's have a look underneath. So underneath the left-hand side of the transmission, as you can see, the shift cable, I've got it disconnected there, focus, and the cable moves fine. So the problem's in the manual valve or the range selector switch. It's like it's seized. Never ran across that, mind you. I've never worked on one of these for that particular problem before, and this is probably the only one in Thunder Bay. So we're gonna have to get this in the shop, but I need a helper to start this thing while I manually try to put it in reverse. Well, I managed to get it in the shop by having an assistant hold her foot on the brake while I moved the shifter on the transmission into reverse and then into drive. A little sketchy laying underneath the vehicle, putting it in gear, but at least the parking brake works. So I'm going to put it up in the air and see if we can see what's going on with this transmission linkage. So I was able to get to the shifter through the back here behind the cover. I've got this cover off now, but here's the shifter, and it should move by hand, and it doesn't. So I'm hoping that it's seized up going into the transmission. I'm going to try taking the lever off of it and the range selector switch. Hopefully that comes off. This is the range switch here, range sensor. I don't think it'd be the range sensor at fault, but it's remotely possible. So the lever comes off. It's got a little D-shaped slot on it, keyway on it. And the switch came off quite easily, but you notice the white corrosion around the steel shaft. Like, this shaft is steel and obviously the housing is aluminum, and it doesn't like being in Northern Ontario with all of our salt. I'm going to try to turn this switch, but I think the switch turns pretty easy. Let's try turning this shaft. I'll put the lever back on. So just trying to turn this with a crescent wrench. It's tight as hell. I'm going to spray some penetrating fluid on that shaft. I hope I don't have to take that transmission apart. Well, it moves pretty free now, considering I couldn't move it with a long 3/8 ratchet before. All I did was spray penetrating fluid around the shaft, and I used compressed air to force it in. That's park, reverse, neutral, drive, first, second, or second, third, second, first, third, second, and first. First, second, third, drive, neutral, reverse, park. I'm going to put an O-ring on here, maybe to act as a seal to keep and put some gear oil on the shaft. Can't hurt. So there it is. You can see it moves by hand like it should. Can't believe that that little bit of corrosion on that shaft was enough to stop that thing from turning. I couldn't move the shifter. All right, well, I've adjusted this switch I put it on in where the old bolts were, so it should be close, but we got to make sure that the gear shift indicator works properly, and then the adjustment is on this. Let's see, which way does this go? It goes this way. Well, I guess I got to put it in park. There's park. And then this lever goes on like that. There we go. That's it. Okay, let's put that back together. Wow, that works beautiful now. It's hard to believe that that little bit of corrosion on that shaft was stopping that from going in. Let's check to make sure that the gear shift indicator works. There's park, reverse, where's neutral? There's neutral. Doesn't indicate drive, so I got to adjust the cable a little bit. Probably bent the brackets. So I got to shorten the cable a little bit so it pulls a little further. There's some play in here now. I wonder if he's damaged a bushing in the shifter, because that's play in the shifter. And we'll see if we can get it by adjusting it. It's not going into drive, it's going into neutral. Well, we'll try and adjust it. Well, I think we got it. There's reverse, there's neutral, there's drive. Drive, neutral, reverse, park. Seems to be working. Well, we'll put the covers on and go for a road test. Well, slight problem. Can't get the key out of the ignition. I don't think there's any lock button on this steering column. It's like it's not completely in park now. Yet it shows in park on the dash. Can't get it out until you put it in park. And it is in park, but there may be another switch or something that needs to be activated in the shifter. There is some play in this shifter. I think the bushing on this end of the cable, the other bushing at the bottom end is okay. And I can't get the key out of the ignition. Don't push it in. No. Well, I'm going to do investigating. So the cup holder tray just pops out. It's just clipped on either side here. There's 2 Phillips screws down here. This knob screws off, believe it or not. This trim pops down, and there's a Phillips screw on there, right there. You can see, I think there's there's one right there, and then the knob should come off. So there's actually 2 Phillips headed screws, one here and one here. And then this plastic piece pops off, back on there after. So just push it down, it just clips on here. Now we should be able to lift this out of here. I need 2 hands. So there's a plastic connector for the shift indicator lights that you can reach underneath and squeeze and unplug. That should get us to the shifter now so we can see what's going on with the shifter. There's lots of play in this thing. Well, looking at here, and I don't see anything physically. Oh, there's a piece broken here. I don't know what the heck that is, how that works, and if that has to do with my problem. There's no switch on there that I can see. I thought, this is the gear shift cable by the looks of it here. No, this is it here. Right here. And it's not moving. It's this plastic piece is busted, whatever that is. Let's see if we can figure it out. So this plastic piece goes to a shift cable, or a cable that goes to the steering column lock, and it's broken. I pried it up and it popped into place, and now the key comes out of the ignition. So I'm gonna have to see if, I don't know if we're gonna be able to fix that. I don't think so. It's broken in several pieces. You can see a piece laying down inside there. I wonder if we can temporarily disable the shift lock. It's just for a steering column lock, that's all it's for. It also prevents you from actually being able to shift the gear shift lever unless you have the key on and step on the brake. Well, it seems to work. You got to step on the brake to release that. Even though that plastic is broken, it seems to work. But it was jammed, probably due to the shifter being so stiff, trying to force it into drive. But there is a plastic piece busted off of this. And yeah, let's see when I step on the brake. Let's see if I have to put in here and step on the brake. seems to work okay. Well, we have to leave the shifter in some gear other than park in order to get the cover back on. I'll put the cover back on. Well, it seems to work fine with that piece of plastic broken. Drive, reverse, neutral, park. Put off the brake, key out of the ignition. Well, at least we know what's broken in there. I'm sure that's part of the shifter assembly, but it doesn't appear to affect. It was jammed. That white piece of plastic was jammed, so we're gonna ship it just like this. But the shifter works perfectly fine now. Imagine that. Well, no parts required.